Satyrs trace their origins to ancient Greek folklore, where they were considered primordial beings of the wilderness. They were often seen as spirits of the forest, embodying the wild, untamed forces of nature. In early Greek mythology, they were portrayed as rustic gods of fertility and nature, linked to the abundant and fertile land that the Greeks relied upon. Satyrs were initially viewed as followers of the fertility gods, specifically Pan, the god of shepherds and wild places. Pan himself, often depicted with the features of a satyr, goat legs, horns, and a rugged appearance, was closely associated with these creatures. His wild and untamed persona reflected the essence of what satyrs represented: primal energy and the connection between man and nature. As Greek mythology evolved, satyrs became even more intertwined with Dionysus, the god of wine, ecstasy, and festivity. In many myths, satyrs were born from the union of divine beings and nymphs, woodland deities that symbolize the beauty and fertility of nature. This divine ancestry reinforced their connection to the world of gods and spirits, but it also placed them on the fringes of human society. Unlike other gods and goddesses who were typically honored in grand temples and revered in formal ceremonies, satyrs were more closely associated with untamed, uncontrolled wilderness. Their presence symbolized a reminder of the chaotic, unpredictable forces that could not be easily subdued by human civilization. The role of satyrs in Greek mythology also reflects ancient Greek attitudes toward nature. While they worshipped gods like Demeter and Artemis, who represented the fertility of the land and the hunting of animals, the Greeks also recognized the wilder, more chaotic aspects of the natural world. Satyrs were the embodiment of these forces, beings that represented the untamed spirit of nature, often indulging in primal urges like lust and desire. They were believed to roam the wilderness freely, living in harmony with animals, trees, and rivers, and were often depicted as guardians of the natural world. In some versions of their myth, satyrs were seen as protectors of sacred groves, using their mischievous nature to ward off those who would harm the forest. Physically, satyrs were known for their distinctive and unusual appearance, blending both human and animal features. In early Greek art, satyrs were depicted with the upper body of a man, but with goat-like legs complete with hooves and a tail. They were often shown with a full beard and pointed ears, which further emphasized their wild, rustic nature. These features connected them to the wilderness and animals, symbolizing their role as spirits of nature. The horns atop their heads were another characteristic that reinforced their animalistic traits, often drawing comparisons to goats or rams, creatures associated with fertility, aggression, and vigor. Their bodies, while mostly human in shape, were often exaggerated to emphasize their lustful and mischievous tendencies. Satyrs were frequently shown as pot-bellied, with exaggerated facial features like large noses and grinning mouths. These traits served as a physical reflection of their personalities: greedy, lustful, and unrestrained. Their love of revelry, drink, and physical pleasure was mirrored in their physical appearance, making them a symbol of indulgence and excess. However, over time, the depiction of satyrs evolved. In later classical art, they were portrayed as more human-like, with fewer animalistic traits. While still keeping their signature goat legs and horns, they became more refined in appearance, often depicted as athletic and youthful. Satyrs were also known for their association with music and dancing. In many depictions, they are shown holding musical instruments like the panpipes or olos, a double reed instrument. Music played a significant role in the life of a satyr, as it was seen as a way to connect with nature and the divine. Satyrs were often shown engaging in wild, ecstatic dances, embodying the unrestrained joy of life and revelry. Their music and dancing were closely tied to their role as companions of Dionysus, as they participated in the festivals and rituals dedicated to him. These activities represented their carefree nature, living in the moment and embracing the pleasures of life without concern for consequences. One of the most prominent aspects of satyrs in Greek mythology is their deep connection with the god Dionysus. Known as the god of wine, fertility, and ecstasy, Dionysus himself was a figure of wildness and celebration. Satyrs were his loyal followers, and their lives revolved around the same principles that Dionysus embodied: pleasure, indulgence, and the celebration of life. In myth, satyrs often accompanied Dionysus in his wanderings, serving as his attendants and joining him in wild, joyous festivals known as bacchanalia. The bacchanalia were religious festivals that involved music, dancing, drinking, and the abandonment of societal norms. These festivals were held in honor of Dionysus and allowed his followers, both human and satyr, to release their inhibitions and connect with the primal aspects of their nature. Satyrs, being creatures of instinct and desire, were naturally drawn to these celebrations. They played an important role in these rituals, embodying the spirit of unrestrained joy and chaos that Dionysus represented. Their love for music and dance made them the perfect companions for the god, as they encouraged his followers to let go of their reservations and join in the revelry. The relationship between Dionysus and the satyrs also highlights a key theme in Greek mythology: the tension between civilization and the wild, between order and chaos. While many of the Greek gods represented aspects of human civilization, law, agriculture, and reason, Dionysus and his followers, including the satyrs, embodied the chaotic, unpredictable side of life. They were forces of nature that could not be controlled or tamed, representing both the joys and dangers of living without restraint. The satyrs' loyalty to Dionysus reflected their shared desire to live life freely, embracing both the pleasures and risks that came with indulging in their primal instincts. In many myths, satyrs were shown as participants in the legendary journeys of Dionysus. Whether wandering the earth or engaging in divine battles, satyrs remained steadfast companions of the god, offering their wild and chaotic energy wherever they went. Their presence was often a symbol of the unrestrained power of nature, a reminder that while humans could build cities and create laws, there was always a wild, untamable force just beyond the boundaries of civilization. Satyrs, with their dual nature as both human and animal, embodied this tension, representing the balance between humanity's ordered world and the chaos of nature. Satyrs played an important role in Greek mythology, but their influence extended far beyond the myths themselves. They were integral to Greek drama and storytelling, particularly through their association with a unique theatrical genre known as the satyr play. In ancient Greece, theater was not just a form of entertainment, but a crucial part of religious festivals, particularly those honoring Dionysus. During these festivals, theatrical performances would include tragedies, comedies, and satyr plays. The satyr play was a specific type of drama that blended both tragedy and comedy, providing the audience with a light-hearted, often bawdy, respite after the intense emotional weight of the tragic performances. Satyr plays took their name from the chorus of satyrs that featured prominently in them. These plays were characterized by their playful, irreverent nature, often mocking the serious themes of tragedy or poking fun at well-known myths and heroic figures. While satyr plays borrowed many of the elements of traditional tragedy, such as the inclusion of gods, heroes, and epic tales, they also incorporated farcical humor, slapstick comedy, and even crude jokes. The satyrs, with their mischievous, lustful personalities, were the perfect comedic foil to the often solemn and serious nature of Greek tragedy. One of the best-known satyr plays is The Cyclops, written by Euripides, one of the great tragedians of ancient Greece. In this play, the satyrs and their leader, Silenus, find themselves enslaved by the Cyclops Polyphemus, the same Cyclops who famously encounters Odysseus in Homer's Odyssey. The satyr's interactions with the Cyclops are filled with humor and irreverence, providing a comedic twist on the more serious epic. This blending of high-stakes adventure with lowbrow humor is characteristic of satyr plays. The satyrs, always prone to cowardice and self-interest, offer a contrast to the heroic actions of figures like Odysseus, further emphasizing the dual nature of these creatures as both part of the divine world and tied to the baser instincts of humanity. The satyr play was a way for Greek society to explore complex themes like the tension between civilization and the wild, order and chaos, or restraint and indulgence, all embodied by the satyrs themselves. While Greek tragedy often focused on the downfall of noble characters due to their flaws or fate, satyr plays reminded the audience that there was a more chaotic, unpredictable aspect of life, one that could not always be explained by reason or logic. The satyrs, with their wild behavior and irreverent attitude toward authority, were the perfect representatives of this unpredictable, uncontrollable force. In addition to their role in satyr plays, satyrs also appeared in numerous myths involving gods and heroes. One of the most famous satyrs in mythology is Silenus, the wise older satyr, who was a frequent companion of Dionysus. Unlike other satyrs, who were primarily depicted as playful and mischievous, Silenus was often portrayed as a more thoughtful, albeit drunken, figure. In some myths, Silenus possessed great wisdom and was even said to have the gift of prophecy, though he often only shared his knowledge when heavily intoxicated. Despite his wisdom, Silenus still embodied the excesses and indulgences of the satyr way of life, reinforcing the complex nature of these beings. Satyrs also appeared in myths involving famous heroes like Heracles and Hermes. In one tale, a satyr named Marsyas challenges the god Apollo to a music contest, believing his flute playing to be superior to Apollo's lyre. When Marsyas loses the contest, Apollo punishes him severely by flaying him alive, a brutal reminder of the consequences of hubris. This myth showcases another aspect of satyrs, their audacity to challenge the gods themselves, often leading to their downfall. Despite their lower status in the divine hierarchy, satyrs were still bold enough to engage with gods and heroes, even if the outcome was not always in their favor. Beyond the ancient world, satyrs have continued to leave a lasting impact on art, literature, and popular culture. From ancient pottery to Renaissance paintings, satyrs have been depicted in countless works of art throughout history. In early Greek art, satyrs were often shown in scenes of revelry, dancing, and drinking, emphasizing their connection to Dionysus and the themes of festivity and indulgence. These depictions often appeared on pottery and vases, which were commonly used during feasts and banquets, reinforcing the association between satyrs and celebration. As Greek and Roman art evolved, so too did the representation of satyrs. In Roman art, satyrs were often depicted as more refined and less animalistic than their earlier Greek counterparts, reflecting the Roman ideal of a more civilized, disciplined society. However, the playful, mischievous nature of satyrs remained a popular theme, especially in Roman frescoes and sculptures. One famous example is the Faun of Pompeii, a bronze statue discovered in the ruins of the ancient city, which depicts a graceful, youthful satyr playing a musical instrument. This shift in the depiction of satyrs, from wild, grotesque creatures to elegant, youthful figures, illustrates how their image was adapted over time to fit changing cultural values. During the Renaissance, satyrs became a popular subject in European art, especially as interest in classical mythology was revived. Artists like Titian and Rubens depicted satyrs in lush, detailed paintings that often focused on their sensual, indulgent nature. These works highlighted the duality of satyrs as both playful and dangerous, capturing their allure as symbols of untamed desire. In Renaissance literature, satyrs often appeared in pastoral poems and plays, where they represented the tension between the idealized, peaceful countryside and the wilder, more chaotic forces of nature. In modern times, satyrs have continued to appear in literature, film, and other forms of popular culture. They have become iconic figures representing the balance between civilization and the wild, embodying both human desire and the dangers of excess. In literature, satyrs are often depicted as humorous, carefree characters, but they can also serve as a metaphor for the darker aspects of human nature. For example, in C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia, the character Mr. Tumnus, a faun, a Roman equivalent of a satyr, starts as a kind, gentle figure, but is later revealed to have been working for the White Witch, reflecting the dual nature of satyrs as both friendly and potentially dangerous. In modern cinema, satyrs have appeared in various fantasy films, often as comic relief or as symbols of the natural world. In Disney's Hercules, the character Phil, based on the satyr Philoctetes, serves as a mentor to the young hero but is also portrayed as a comical, lustful character, staying true to the traditional satyr's personality. In more recent fantasy films like Pan's Labyrinth and The Chronicles of Narnia, satyr-like creatures are depicted as mysterious, otherworldly beings, emphasizing their connection to ancient myths and the natural world. The image of the satyr has also been adapted and reinterpreted in modern fantasy and role-playing games, where they are often depicted as nature spirits or trickster figures. Their association with wildness, music, and magic makes them a popular archetype in fantasy literature and games, where they continue to represent the balance between human civilization and the untamed forces of nature. Throughout history, satyrs have remained captivating figures, both in their mythological origins and in their enduring presence in art and culture. Their wild, untamed nature, combined with their mischievous and playful personalities, has made them symbols of indulgence, freedom, and the complexities of human desire. Whether in ancient myths, Renaissance paintings, or modern films, the figure of the satyr continues to intrigue and inspire, reminding us of the delicate balance between order and chaos in the human experience.